Hello everyone, and welcome to these preparatory meetings for our Diocesan Congress. As you know, we've reached a very critical, a very important stage in our process. Over the past few months, parishes and schools and various different groups across the Archdiocese of Armagh, and indeed beyond the Archdiocese, have been organising listening sessions or consultations with people to get their opinions and their insights and ideas around the whole area of youth and family ministry. Now, we have a large amount of feedback from those groups, so we're beginning the process now of sifting through it and seeing what are the priorities that are emerging. So I'm delighted to help us in this process. We have with us Bishop Niall Coll. And Bishop Niall is the Bishop of Ossory, which is basically Kilkenny and some of County Laois and County Offaly in the southeast of the country. But Bishop Niall is a native of Donegal. He was a lecturer in St Mary's College in Belfast for 18 years. So from your over 18 years working as a lecturer in St Mary's with young people, how would you describe the world that they're growing up in?
Well, I think you have to use the word culture. The culture that young people are growing up in today is something that has evolved and is quite different from, say, people who are 80 years old or 60 years old. The modern culture tends to be more individualistic, more consumer focused, more formed by technology and social media, and people are less invested in traditional structures. Fewer are involved in, say, membership of political parties. Fewer are involved in social outreach, and of course fewer are involved in the life of their parish. They find that they're going to Mass on Sunday not something that they can prioritise. Now, not many of them would be working out of an ideological conviction that they have lost their faith in God or in Jesus Christ, or they might even still be quite well disposed towards the church because at times they have met kindness and support there. But it's harder for them to have a sense of belonging. I suppose as well, many young people do words like mental health, and their concerns about their mental health come easily to their lips. I mean, that's not a phrase I remember even 30 years ago, but these terms have emerged very strongly. I think the pandemic was very difficult for a lot of what you might call now the Gen Zs, people who came to adolescence from about 2011. Firstly, they were dealing with the preponderance of social media and the digital technology. But then during important years in their life too, the pandemic restrictions really cut them off a lot from friends and from a broader basis in the community. And I don't think we should underestimate how difficult it is when, in those formative years, your ability to socialise is restricted. So therefore, I would say, to just as I speak now, I would say young people today, they're very shaped by the culture. The culture tends to be very individualistic. It tends to be materialistic. Then their imaginations are very shaped by technology, and it's not uncommon now to find a young person who has maybe 10,000 friends online, the best friends, say, in California, but they don't seem to have any flesh and blood friends near home. So if they face a difficulty, they can often feel very isolated. And I think parents find it hard to understand that social media can so shape the experience of young people.
Yeah, given the realities you described and the challenges that young people face today, How do you feel from your dealings with young people over the years, particularly people who are preparing to be teachers? How do you think they perceive the Catholic Church and the Catholic faith?
Well, I'd say most of them are sort of they're people of goodwill. That the younger generation don't have the same hang-ups about church that maybe their parents' generation had. That the church, in a sense, in their experience, has been more not at the centre of the culture, and so often, so they find the church, a place where they're hopefully welcomed when they go, or they're welcome to go to anyway. And I don't find them ideologically driven in that way. Like when I was teaching in St Mary's University College in Belfast, I suppose the teaching students were conscious that their careers would be in Catholic schools, and most of them were open to being the best teacher of RE that they could be, and they were keen to get their RE teaching certificate. So I found them more positive than I would have anticipated before I went there. As to how that openness translates into regular religious practice, I don't know. I think many of them were very involved in the life of their parishes, and that always cheered me. And many of them weren't as well. I have to be honest, as far as I know. But there was quite a cohort who were committed, and they were involved in groups, like Friends of Africa, St Vincent de Paul, and so much outreach. At Christmas, they would do so much to have gifts for the poor and the needy around the Belfast area. So I saw a lot of goodwill. And as I say, not the negativity that you would maybe pick up on the media.
Yeah.
It's more complex than that. The media tend to present young people in the church in a binary. Mm-hmm. It's more complex than that. I should go back to that thing we were talking about, the pandemic. Many young people felt very, very restricted during the pandemic, and that their mental health suffered. And they felt very sort of isolated, and that's a general theme anyway in modern culture today. Many young people they're cut off from the roots of their culture, because the general culture is so, and media is so unsympathetic. But a lot of them now, at this stage, they're beginning to feel that life lacks meaning and purpose and direction, and that some of them are looking again at the faith. Mm-hmm. And this is a feature of what they call Generation Z. This is young people who came to adolescence after 2011, and in the universities, in UCD, in Trinity, in UCC, I hear that the chaplaincies there are finding more young people interested in exploring faith, and so the sort of the culture today that is so nihilistic, without meaning and values, it seems to be triggering among some young people a willingness to look again at the Christian tradition. Mm-hmm. And this is picking up developments that are very strong in France and in England. 10,000 adults were baptized in France last Easter as part of the OCIA, the Order of Christian Initiation of Adults. Mm-hmm. And seemingly that's about something like a 80 to 90% increase mm-hmm. over the last 3 or 4 years. So the French church seemingly has been very much taken by surprise mm-hmm. By it. And there are indications in England, Scotland, and even in Ireland now that I don't want to over-egg the pudding,
Yeah.
but there is certainly an interest in faith. And I suppose for young people, that age group, who do begin to look again at the faith, they're doing so not because there's any social advantage or pressure. Nowadays, young people, in a sense, through their experience of life and the power of the Holy Spirit, some of them are looking again at faith, and some of them are making the choice of faith.
It's good to hear that sort of those positive elements in relation to young people and their perception of the faith, and how the faith can help them to meet the various different challenges that they have to face in today's life. We've been reflecting on this, as I said at the beginning, in the Archdiocese of Armagh, and there's been a huge amount of feedback, and I want to thank everybody who's been involved in a listening session or a consultation. You've had an opportunity to read through some of that feedback. How do you read it? Is there anything that stands out for you there in that body of work?
Well, I must begin by thanking all who made that survey possible. The parishes and communities, schools that worked with it, the staff, the diocesan staff behind the scenes who have collated it. And I found it a very comprehensive survey. So many of the most important elements of what will make for a renewed church are to be found there.